run off. So there's no major sustained combat. I mean, there's combat operations, but the typical thing you see in these villages are these shoot and scoot things. So I'm encouraged. That's why I say it. I'm convinced that the American military knows how to fight a counterinsurgency operation and will succeed militarily in the nation of Afghanistan.
Is the July 11th, 2000 or July 2011 withdrawal date that we've talked about, is it harming your mission? Is it making your mission more difficult?
Sir, I asked that question to the commander on the ground, and to be honest with you, down at his end, there's not. They don't even talk about it. There's no discussion in the Helmand Province about, is this an issue with the leadership down there. The Afghan National Army, the Afghan National Police, the district governors, the leadership, the provincial governor of the Helmand Province, they are dedicated. There's not an ounce of flinching on this.
Last question I have for you, and it probably deserves a longer answer than you might be able to give today, but it occurs to me as an expeditionary force, the Marines have always been light on their feet, in and out, try to be the first in, secure the beachhead, secure the city, secure the village, win the battle, and then be able to move on to the next battle. That seems to me to be in tension with a counterinsurgency strategy that requires you to go in and work to build trust, to build relationships, to build local fighting forces. As the Commandant of the Marine Corps, I would assume that's something that you think about, the tension between your traditional role and this new way of warfighting, and I wonder how you will reconcile those two competing demands going forward.
Senator, I think when we leave Afghanistan, the last thing I would want to see the Marine Corps do would be to lose those skill sets that we've learned over the last nine years. Many of those skill sets, the cultural sensitivity, the importance of language, the ability to work with other nations in some pretty remote areas are all things that we've learned, and we've actually relearned those. We've done those throughout the 235 years of our Marine Corps history. We are on the land right now. That has happened to us periodically throughout the Marine Corps. It happened to us in Korea. It happened to us in Vietnam. It happened to us at Bellawood in France. But we come out, and we become our nation's crisis response force that has that high state of readiness that I referred to earlier in my testimony. I will want to capture the very best of what we've learned. I will want to maintain that because I think it will apply as we work in nations and with other countries around this great, the world. But we are going to do our level best to begin to lighten the Marine Corps up, and we're going to do our level best to work with our Navy brothers and the Chief of Naval Operations to be those forward deployed forces ready to do the nation's bidding at the moment's notice. So I think we'll be able to take the best of what we've learned and hang on to that, and then we'll get on with the rest of the business.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Lemieux, and thank you, General, for being here today. I'd like to begin by reiterating my appreciation to the committee and to Chairman Levin for having the opportunity to serve on this committee where my predecessor, Robert C. Byrd, served honorably for decades. And, of course, as the General may be aware, I was appointed to my position caused by the passing of Senator Byrd this summer, a man who is revered in my home state of West Virginia and in many respects is a giant in American history, having served at the highest levels of our government for nearly a quarter of the Republic's history. A daunting task, I suppose, in its own right, but one that in many respects pales in comparison to the challenges that await you in your new position, which is why I'm particularly pleased to have the opportunity to visit with you briefly here today, because it allows me to make good on a promise I made to a friend and a Marine in West Virginia upon receiving my appointment. Back in July, when the announcement was made, amidst the dozens of calls of congratulations and well wishes, I had the chance to have a conversation with a friend and former colleague in West Virginia state government by the name of Rob Ferguson, a Marine who's currently serving as the Cabinet Secretary for the West Virginia Department of Administration, and a man who is extremely active in veterans issues throughout the state of West Virginia and across our country. And during our brief conversation, he cited me a simple figure, and that was 32. As the number of suicides suffered by his fellow Marines so far this calendar year. Certainly a startling figure, one perhaps even more troubling given the high numbers over the past several years. Talk to me about the mental and behavioral health challenges facing the men and women under your command as they return from defending our country in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. And also the de-stress program, the behavioral health counseling service, which you previously expressed a desire to expand and grow.
Senator, thank you for the opportunity to address this key, important issue. I suspect that of all the things I've spent my time on the last 25 months as the Assistant Commandant, the issue of suicides in our Corps, the issue of psychological health, TBI, PTS, probably occupied the clear majority of my time, all for the right reasons, all for the reasons you imply in your opening statement or in your statement. We've lost 32 Marines as of this morning. That's 32 more Marines than we should have lost. We lost 52 last year. Suicides are counted on a calendar year, not a fiscal year. We began last year, about midway through last year, just looking at this trend going up and saying, boy, we've got to do, I mean, it's not a matter of we just woke up. We were doing things, but we're going to have to do things differently. Brought in Marine non-commissioned officers and said, we need your help. Because most of the suicides were young men. They were aged 19 through 22. They were white, and they were young enlisted. And they were E1s through E5s. Predominantly, the ones we were losing were about E3s and E4s to E5s. And so the non-commissioned officers said, sir, let us take this on. And we began to focus our efforts in the Marine Corps a year and a half ago on our non-commissioned officers. We had them help us build probably the most high-impact and most relevant training program for non-commissioned officers on suicide prevention that I've ever, in fact, in any service that we have today. I'm proud to report to you, actually I'm encouraged to report to you today, the numbers of suicides in this year among our non-commissioned officers have dropped, and they've dropped what I would consider to be markedly. This time last year, we had 37 suicides in the Marine Corps. On this date, we had 37. We have 32 today. Where are we headed? It's important. We're not done. We have another effort underway right now to take that same type of high-value or high-impact training and put it down to our young E1s through E3s. That is underway right now. The same thing for our lieutenants, first lieutenant and second lieutenants. We're going to build a separate training program for them. That is the focus of effort for suicide prevention. We're not done. We're not satisfied. I've had 32 more than we wanted to have this year, and we are determined to bring that number down and make a difference. The de-stress program was an effort that came out of these non-commissioned officers. While we were addressing suicides a year and a half ago, I asked them, I said, can you give me a suggestion on something that you might think would help? And looking at the suicides, and that a lot of them are based on or seem to have a common denominator of a problem with a relationship with a young woman, could be a wife, could be a girlfriend, could be a fiancé. They said, sir, you need to have a relationship hotline. Now, maybe to us, we would look at that and go, that sounds, I don't understand that. But we fussed with that for about a year, about 6 months. And we came to the conclusion that what we really needed was a hotline that would plug into mental health providers across this nation, that a family member, a wife, a husband, a Marine, one of our corpsmen, our docs, our sailors could call completely anonymously and get assistance. We broke ground on this about 3 weeks ago, and the beta test on what we call a beta test is being done at Camp Pendleton, at Miramar, Yuma, 29 Palms, and it's in cooperation with our healthcare provider out there, and we have 24-hour hotline, and we've advertised this now, and the early indications are that it's getting some traction. So yet to be seen. When I come back to this committee, I'll be able to give you a full report on the value of that. But the whole idea is to be able to provide another venue to reduce this issue of stigma, where a man or a woman can pick up a phone and call and talk to somebody and then get referred to a mental health provider somewhere in the western part of the United States. It's the referral and the follow-on care which is critically important. So there's a host of things that we're doing, and I'd be happy to go through those things with you, but I just want you to know it's a great, it's a great focus of effort for the Commandant.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your answer. It's certainly been an honor for me to preside over part of your confirmation hearing today. Chairman Levin has indicated that the committee intends to meet as soon as possible to act on your nomination and encouraging the Senate to quickly confirm you. I want to wish you well and thank you and your family for being here today. And I received some information you brought some West Virginians with you to the hearing today. That's why he was so well behaved, I imagine. The record will remain open for 5 days if senators wish to submit additional questions to you. This hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
Iran's president said today at the United Nations that he expects international nuclear talks to resume. Next on C-SPAN, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Howard Berman discusses Iran's nuclear program.